Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to invite you on my Let's Talk show. And I'm Elena Berman, who is a wonderful guest. This is unbelievable woman who I'm about to introduce to you. I love her because she has a personality. She is very feminine, which is so rare, and she has a lot of wisdom. I'm interested to know about that wisdom, and I hope you will learn something interesting too. Let me introduce you, my beautiful friend, Cherie Bauer.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You look fabulous as always, and I like your vibrant look because you always put yourself together. Tell me your secrets about how to be happy, because you always look happy.
How to be happy? Well, I think you have to take inventory of your life all the time and just step back and understand that we probably live better than 9/10 of the people in America, in Europe, and other countries. And I always remind myself that I'm very blessed. And no matter what, there's going to be someone who's going to have more than you. They're going to be richer, skinnier, it doesn't really matter. But literally, I do try to remember that because I always take, if you have your health and if you have, your family and you have just, if you don't have to worry about, like I don't have to worry about a lot of things other people worry about. And I know that's a blessing. I'm not worried about paying the rent, let's say, or all these, financial things. And financial worries can, I've been there before, and they can weigh you down a lot. But I just noticed that, happiness is something that you carry within you. And you can be happy anywhere. You don't have to be, it doesn't matter where you are. You can be on a desert island, you can be happy. You have to carry it inside.
Absolutely.
It doesn't come from anyone else.
I agree on that. Mostly we talk about relationships, and I know you're a very good professional on that. And I would love to ask you a lot of questions, how you build up your relationships with people who you connect. Because everybody knows that our success and our destiny depends how you lucky or how you know how to build up those relationships or keep a long-term relationships. Give us overview how you master this stuff, because you are a wonderful wife and you are mother of 3 beautiful kids and they're so talented. So give us insights, please.
I always felt when the children were growing up that I was short. I was always coming up short in giving everyone enough attention. When you have 3 children, it's like you feel like, you always feel like, am I giving too much to this one and not enough to that one? Then you've got your husband, and then you've got your family members, your aunties and mothers, and there's just so many people that are that need attention one way or the other. So, and it changes over the decades. So I remember, looking back as a very young woman, let's say, that I had a lot of family obligations, and I would have 3 children, but I'd have to take my 96-year-old grandmother to the doctor and somehow manage all those things. And you just do it. But family-wise, I was raised in a very family-oriented home anyway, so I was used to putting family first, and that was always like what I was taught. Family comes first, everything in the family comes first, and of course your friends are important, and then your work relations. I sometimes to this day find that there's not enough time. I feel like even to this day I think that, well, I need to call this friend or that friend or go see them, and the days, as you know, they go by really fast. And I do feel like that we have to consciously make an effort in this day and age, even with technology and the ease of it, to connect with people, even more so now than before. Especially like we're coming off of this pandemic, and I haven't seen our members of our extended family for a year or so, and it's weird. And now finally things are going on again, and we're getting back together, and it's nice to connect. And in fact, we just had an event a business event in Las Vegas, first one that we've had since the pandemic started. And we forgot how wonderful it was to have people again, for people to come out and to connect and to see each other, and that human touch and interaction that's been missing, because everything's been online, is so important. And it made us repivot our business thoughts again, because we went from taking everything, live to online, and now we're back to thinking, no, we need to meet in person. It's so important. You can't replace that intimacy and that closeness. And now, as life goes on, I've got a new little grandson now who's adorable, and I try and see him every time as much as possible.
So
But
your priorities is changing.
my priorities are, I've got a 93-year-old mother who lives with me, who's full-time care. My mother-in-law was in the same situation. She just passed away recently. So there's been a lot of it's like the very elderly that need a lot of attention. And then my kids are they're grown, they're in their 20s. But parenting doesn't stop when they're in their 20s. In fact, it keeps going. And it gets more intense as they get older. And it's not like they're 18 and you're done. I feel like I'm always going to be a mother. I'm always going to be a parent. I'm always going to try and teach them what I know, to teach shortcuts, and if I can make their lives easier and help them any way I can.
Yeah, what, for example, your wishes, if you feel always like empowered yourself, and you can empower others, what is your wishes for yourself would be? Because I know you're a very caring person, but what about for yourself?
Well, for me, I have felt like it's time that I start to use my voice again. And I used to be a working professional, and I was in institutional side of finance. I was an investment advisor, and I had a big career before I got married. And then I got married and had 3 children immediately. So I couldn't do what I was doing before professionally. I have worked since I was a child. My family owned a store in Beverly Hills before I was born, and I was raised as a very small child. I used to go to work every weekend, and I would work with wrap presents, I'd do errands. So the work ethic was starting very, very young. I happened to come from a family of all women, and they were all very independent financially. They were all entrepreneurs, all had their own businesses.
So you grew up this way.
So that was my model growing up, and my model was that that I didn't know anything different. My thoughts were, well, I'm going to do something for myself, and I'm highly creative, and some people have a store, some people are in business for themselves and doing different things. My mother was in construction in a time when women were not in construction at all. So she was one of the original Tin Men. I don't know if you know what that is, but she was very famous in her field, and she was just the only woman who worked with all of these men in a very male-dominated industry. And when I started my career in my early 20s in stocks and finance, there were never any other women. I was the only female in the office in that capacity.
I was the same. I love actually work with men.
And all my mentors were men. And I will say this, that I think something that's lacking today, and I don't know why it's lacking, but I find that we've had enough time now where women have entered into the professional workforce, and they've got a lot of experience to share with younger women and to mentor younger women. For some reason, it doesn't seem to happen very often. And if anything, there's a divide between those who've made it and the new ones who are trying to start out. So I think that it's very, very important that seasoned women who've been in their professions, who have a lot to give and a lot to teach to someone younger than them, other young women coming through the ranks, they need to spend the time and teach them and guide them. The men have been doing it for centuries, and they have mentors. So I just would like to see more of that. And I watch my daughters now who are in their 20s, and I see the dynamic between the male and the female bosses, and sometimes there is a wonderful woman who'll come along and teach, but more often than not, that's rare. It doesn't happen. And if anything, there might be jealousies because they're young and they're beautiful or whatever. However, they're thinking. I mean, I don't know what it is about women, but women need to learn to collaborate more. And they tend to be in competition with each other instead of collaborating. Until women learn to collaborate, we're going to be in the same situation. Men have figured this out a long time ago. And I think I would like to see collaboration and mentorship with women.
You. Did you have any kind of difficult times in your life, and how did you overcome? What is your?
I had terrible times in my life. I was like the poor little rich girl. So I was raised by a single mother my mother was divorced from my father very young, and he lived in a different state. So it was very difficult for my mother raising my brother and myself, and she wanted to give us everything. But there were times when, something went awry, something didn't work, and I had to quit school. I had to help support a family. I had to put my needs aside for the greater good of the family and do whatever needed to be done to step in. Let's say a relative fell, and like my aunt, when she broke her hip one time, and she had a store in Beverly Hills to run, and I needed, we sometimes would have to step in and do whatever had to be done. But there were times when I was probably 19, 18, 19 years old, that were my early 20s, when I seemed to attract, a lot of my friends were from very wealthy families, and they had carte blanche to go to any college they wanted to do anything they needed to do, and they had the support. And that was, my dream was to go to Harvard. I wanted to, and I got into Harvard, but I couldn't go because I couldn't afford to go, and I had all these obligations. So for what I would have killed to do, other friends of mine or even cousins of mine could do without any effort at all. And I had to really struggle throughout my early 20s. And I remember my very best friend, who married quite young. She was only 22 when she got married, and she stepped into a career very early that paid very handsomely. And she was making 6 figures at a very young age. And her husband was older. She already had a house. She already had everything. And I was a struggling, starving college student trying to make my way. And there was a huge, that all my very closest friends, I was struggling with everything that I had. And they were in a very different place. And that was hard. It was very, very hard. So I had to fight and really earn everything I had. It didn't come easy. Nothing came easy. I wasn't given anything. I had to pay my way through school. I had to do everything on my own. And it just was a struggle, but I kept going and going and going.
In the long run, people like you who starts from difficult times, they end up with the good times. Because when you start with everything is taken care of for you, you don't work on yourself, but you are prepared, and you did very beautiful job. And look at you right now. You are with a wonderful business who you running with your husband, and you have a wonderful children. You have a wonderful grandchild, and I would love to go closer to your family, because after every successful man, always behind a beautiful and smart woman. So I think about you as very smart woman. And you not only backing up your husband, I think something inside, you have some magic. Because the way how you talk with your husband, you have a very interesting relationship. How do you do that? Is it your personality, or because your husband well known as a mentor of mentors? And how to be, by the way, a wife of mentor of mentors.
Not easy sometimes.
It is funny.
No. I remember, I knew my husband before all this happened, and he was in his field was magic. He was a magician when I first met him. My mother thought I was crazy. So we kind of grew up together. We were only 21 when we met. And of course, he lied to me, told me he was 28 or 27. I can't remember. But
wow.
So
why he would do that?
Because I guess to impress me. I guess
okay.
Because I think I was dating someone who was 10 years older than I. I was dating someone who was very different than him, and it was we were young enough where we could kind of grow together and get used to each other's ways. And I remember getting married, and that was 9 years after I met him. We got married. We didn't get married right away. But that first year of marriage was really tough, because it was all of a sudden, we couldn't go to our different places. I mean, we were together, and we had to why are you bringing that picture, and why are you doing this? Why is your mother always coming over? Why are these relatives always dropping by? And it was a huge adjustment. So it's taken 30 years, and now it's all good. It's just taken a long time.
Only 30 years, right?
I've known him almost 40. It's getting scary. Oh my gosh. But I come from a very cultural. I was raised in a Middle Eastern family, and he was raised as an only child. He was from Philadelphia in upstate New York, and we came from very different religious backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds. It was very hard for him to understand in the beginning my crazy family and the way we operate. And now it's fine, but there were a lot of challenges for a lot of years. It was very difficult. I mean, starting from day one. So
did you have a chance, what you're about to say? I'm done. I'm divorcing. Did you have that?
Oh yeah, I mean that happened, you know.
So what kept you going together?
I think commitment. I think when I got married, I was very committed to getting married and being married and staying married because I came from a divorced family. I didn't really want that. I didn't consider it a failure. I just was thinking, I've looked at so many of my friends who have been married, divorced, married again, you know, blended families, and sometimes it works out great and sometimes it doesn't. But ideally, of course, it's always nice if you can kind of get through all these hurdles over the decades, and at the end, you know, you have your kids that are grown and you don't have a lot of complications that you brought in. And I'm happy that we kind of stood the course of time. And there were times, let me tell you, that could have easily gone the other direction. So, because life is challenging, you know, and not, you know, I wasn't married to a typical man who was just going to work from 9 to 5 either. And, you know, you're talking someone who's traveling a great deal, and I've got, you know, children at home, small children, and you've got to be independent. You have to be independent when you're married to someone like that. So it was, and then I got used to him traveling, and he got used to traveling, and you have to adjust when you get back together again, and the kids are, you know, you're not used to little children, and then that's an adjustment. So there's all these adjustments that would go on constantly. But, you know, at the end of the day, and you're looking back where our kids are grown, almost, I mean, they're grown. When they're completely launched, I'll let you know, but that's still a process. I'm happy that that's all intact, and it's easy to step out. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, I'm done. And I would say to a lot of women out there that as you mature, as you go through different stages and phases of life, what might devastate you in your 30s, you'll handle differently in your 40s and very differently in your 50s, and your perspective shifts and you change, and how you react to something therefore changes. It's not, you know, I think when we're younger, everything is more catastrophic. So
the secret, I think, just wait. Wait until you will be older.
So my mother-in-law used to tell me, she goes,
this.
"You have no idea." You got to get through all this, and it's going to be great in the end.
Yes, that's
really?
right. She's right.
So I mean, she was married, and she was married like 4 times, I think. So I mean, but the last husband was 35 years. But there's something about in today's world that I don't know if a lot of people understand what commitment means. And when you're a parent, what that means, and the kind of commitment it takes to be a parent, to be anything good. If you're going to have a business, anything you do, you have to fully commit to. Otherwise, you're not going to, it's going to fall apart.
And you have to be responsible.
You have to be responsible. You have to really fully commit to things. And so it's like there's no giving the kids back once you have them. There's no, you know, you're into it, you know, full board, and you've just got to, you're going to have to go on that train and just stay on it.
Right now, people kind of think they don't need the family, and they think I will be better by myself. What is your advice, and what is your thought about that? What kind of good advice you would give to those people? Are they right, or maybe something they don't know?
Well, I think on one hand, it's good to be able to be alone and to be happy by yourself and be content. And then that is a place that everyone should be at inside themselves. However, I think that there's also an emptiness if you don't pursue necessarily relationships. I mean, I think we're meant to have relationships. We're human. That's part of the human experience. And that we are a species that cannot survive unless we are interdependent upon other people. You can't take a newborn baby and, you know, lay him down and put him somewhere, and that baby will die. They have to have touch. They have to have interaction. They have to be cared for. Older people need it. I mean, everybody wants to be loved, and everybody wants to have closeness to other people. I think that's really important. I don't think we need to be dependent. Our happiness should not be dependent on that, but we should be able to. We should be able to be close to others. I think friendships are important. I believe in family, and I see it in American culture where more often than not, again, people don't talk to each other. They don't talk to we have this thing in psychology today where it's like if someone doesn't serve you or someone is considered toxic, just cut them out of your life and excise them from your life. I don't particularly adhere to that philosophy. I think that's a very cold American kind of a thing, and I don't like it. I think that it doesn't really solve anything except to keep you away and you great.
Yeah,
Now that you've created all
absolutely.
these different divisions again, so life becomes about dividing this person and that person. And I think that we need to, in fact, I think we have to touch on common ground with people. Everyone's very different. We're not going to agree on everything. We're not going to be the same, and that's what makes the world work. But ultimately, I do think that when push comes to shove, who do you have and who's closest to you, and that you want to I want to keep my children close. I want to I could have put my mother in a nursing home. I just feel like that would be very cruel, to do that to her.
I'm very admire that in you.
Even with my mother-in-law, I felt bad, because she spent the last year of her life in seclusion due to the circumstances, and it was very cruel. And I think that really, in a way, killed her. So I don't want to live away from my kids. I want to be close to my grandchildren as they come along, and I want to be close to even my cousins. I think that your cousins are your first best friends when you're growing up in life, and I understand that there are people like my brother never got married. He doesn't have children. He doesn't mind being alone, but still, I think as you get older, I think the richness of relationships that you develop with your children, with family, with friends, you can't replace that with anything, and that's more important than that's it's fulfilling. It's like there's a richness to it that embodies you with that, and there's a satisfaction you feel in connecting with somebody else. And so I think we have to really make an effort in this day and age to keep connecting. So we have to make an effort.
What is your priorities in life besides your family?
For me, it's my spirituality, and I've been like that since I can remember. So I think that being born is a gift, that we have have an incarnation here on this particular planet, that this is a very special thing, and that our lives, I believe, are that every life here is very precious, and that there is a set of blueprints that you come in with, and much like construction, you might make some change orders to the blueprint, but we have a mission. I look at people like their souls, and everybody who's here has important work to do, and they're working on their self-development, they're working on the betterment of doing things for the world. Everybody is contributing in different ways. And the key is to figure out what that is for you, and to make sure that you don't have regrets, and that you are working on your life path. And the life path maybe changes at different intervals of your life, but apart from family and kids and work and everything else, there's another essence of you that's supposed to be doing something. So I'm very always aware of that, and sometimes I feel frustrated, like I'm having to sometimes kind of push that down a little bit, where I don't really want to because of present circumstances, or I'm not able to maybe fulfill the way I want to fulfill. But at the end of the day, like when I remember being 19, 17 years old and thinking about enlightenment and about women attaining enlightenment, and did I want to have children? Did I want to go through all that again? That's a big decision, because it's easier not to. And then I had a friend of mine who had 5 children, and she was one of my spiritual mentors. And she, as a woman, really helped me, because she told me, how do you have time to meditate? How do you have time to do this? And she would tell me all these little things that she did, because she was a very busy person with all these kids. Everyone else I had known were men, and they were not married, and they were independent, and they could focus on their work and their spirit and their teaching, their spirituality. But as a woman, I felt like I didn't have the same privileges. Like, life was so busy, how do I balance it? And I feel like I want to live my life to the fullest, and I want to accomplish what I'm supposed to do here. And there's so much more that I know that I need to do. And I'm excited about that. I don't always know exactly what it is, because it sort of evolves. Again, it switches and changes. And my duties and my fulfillments sometimes are ending over here and starting a new path on this side. So for me, I think that connection to your higher self and to your spirit and to your soul is above all the most important thing.
So you follow your flow wherever it comes to you, and you feel it. Okay, I need to do that, and you continue with that.
Yeah, I feel like this incarnation is very, very important, and that I need to fulfill on a soul level what I came here to do.
So many people find each other attractive for several weird sometimes reasons. how you attract to people and what is attracts you in people. For example, tell me on what attracts you with your husband, and in real life, when you are, how do you choose people around you?
Well, that's a good question. I guess it depends. Like you asked me about my husband. What attracted me to my husband early on was that he was so crazy and he was like free and a free spirit. And I was used to this like, MBA, Stanford types, and it was just, I had a lot of responsibility in my 20s, like much more so than I ever should have had. I mean, it was a lot. And I didn't have the carefree 20s that I should have had, I guess. But it was okay. And so he came along and he was this like a ball that was bouncing all over the place. He was very carefree in the spirit. So that was sort of, that attracted to me because he was just different and he was, didn't do things conventionally at all. And I thought, oh, that's different. I kind of like that because he was very free. And for me, freedom is really important. Like I think that's one of the, I want to be free in a relationship. I don't want to feel like I'm bound in a marriage. I don't want to feel like I'm bound in any relationship. I want to be free within those relationships. And I want to be able to do what I want to do without a noose around my neck, without having to ask permission, without all these, issues. Because that is it's just a personal thing for me. Because like freedom, I really, really value freedom. And we can get into political discussions of, about our country and where we're going with that too. And I worry about those things, but
without killing each other.
Right. But I think having that feeling of personal freedom is very important. Now, when you get older, I'm watching this through, the elderly, and as they start to lose their freedoms, it's a very hard thing.
Yeah.
It's really hard because they can't, it's just through no fault of their own, but it does happen. And so looking at that, I even value it more. Like I'm realizing, oh wow, this is not forever. You better take it while you have it. So like we've been not able to travel for a long time, and I miss that, the freedom to travel. I do miss, because I love to travel. And I like to meet new people. I love different cultures, and I'm kind of I could do that all the time, and I'd be very happy. But I just want to, that's for me the most important thing. If you need to feel like you should not live your life where you feel like you are subjected to a boss, to somebody else that's on top of you all the time, and it's controlling you. It's a terrible feeling to live like that. It's terrible. And sometimes we've had those work experiences. I've had them where you feel like you can't breathe, and they are controlling every dominant thought in your entire timeline of your life, and I would just work to get out of those situations because I know that I would be miserable that way forever. Yeah. Can't do it.
So what do you value in looking for in other people?
I attract a variety of people. I like people from all walks of life. I like people who are, I wouldn't say there's a particular type, because I like people who are open, who are, non-judgmental, let's say, who are just enthralled with something that they're into, that they want to share, that they have to give. And I like learning. I like learning from other people too. I think we learn from each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And when you want to be an interesting person, you want to be well read or well versed in different topics. I could say that I have like my compendium of friends looks like an interesting mix, because they're not all the same at all. And I like that, because I can talk to somebody on the street, and I can talk to somebody, in a palace. It's like I'm going to learn something from both of them. I've never felt like there should be barriers that way.
So you're multitask, I would say.
Well, multitask, yes. What woman doesn't multitask? We're gifted with that.
So you can, because some people just stick to certain people and certain type and don't grow. So I'm like that you have a varieties and you have interest in life.
Yeah, because people are like flowers. I mean, they're multifaceted beings. How do you not learn from everybody?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I look at people.
What did you learn from your mother and you carrying through the life? What is the most valuable asset, what she gave it to you?
Okay, let me think about this one. My mother had a lot of love to give, I think, and a lot of affection. I'm probably not the most affectionate person, like naturally. Like my mom is more affectionate. My husband's probably he's very touchy. Like he's more affectionate than I am. I stand back a little bit more sometimes. This is my nature, is that way. But I think that she was always there for me, always would fight for me, always wanted the best for me. And I knew that she was, there in a big way, kind of like I felt protected by her, I would say, growing up. And my mother was not your average woman by any means, and she is a character to this day.
By looking at you, definitely, because I had in my life like this situation when guy in the business, he's looking at me how I act in life, and he said, I would love to see your parents, because if you act like this, I want to know how they act. So definitely your mom
I
should
come from
be
a
very
lineage of
interested.
really strong women, and that could be good and that could be bad, depending upon your perspective. So, but I want to say it's better. I want to say it's good because it makes you, it gives you a strong sense of who you are and a strong sense of yourself, regardless. Like my husband is well known and he's in the limelight all the time. I'm on the back burner most of the time, but I know who I am and I know what I do, and I don't need like that validation, that outside validation, that he gets constantly. We're just in different places. It doesn't mean he's better. It just means that's what he's choosing to do right now, and this is what I'm choosing to do right now. And we have a working relationship that somehow, enables us to get everything done and accomplished. So we kind of work together as a team. That can shift and that can change. It doesn't have to look the way it does today. It can look differently, 2 years or 5 years from now. It might look very different. But I just have a very strong sense of being female and liking that and being empowered female. There's nothing wrong with that. I think in this culture too, sometimes strong women are put down, and they're considered. There's a lot of negative traits that they associate with that. But as I say, like if I was sitting around waiting for permission to do things or asking him questions, then the whole life, our lives would have fallen apart. He wasn't even there. I mean, he's busy. So you've got to make decisions, and you've got to know what you're doing and direct your children and direct their processes. But I'm kind of a take charge person anyway. That's my nature to come into a situation and I end up, I want to improve it or make it better or take it to a different level. That's just who I am.
And you're doing great. I've seen you in many ways. So
well,
you're
thank
doing
you.
great. You're like a charming woman who with a magic wand just
I
come.
wish I had a magic wand.
and everything is done
I wish I could.
magically.
Or be dreaming with Jeannie and just think when it's all done. Or that's my fantasy.
It will be next. It will be next. You will achieve that level of majesty, magic.
Yeah.
So, because you are both magicians, I strongly believe two magicians, because he is a magician in life and he thinks like a magic man, because it's absolutely different mindset. And I see you as well, but maybe you don't realize that, but you doing magic. Look at your events at home or wherever you do, how you decorate everything, how you organize, how you put together people. You're doing your magic. It's unbelievable. So, and I'm applaud for you.
Well, there's certain things I like to do, like that are fun.
Here
to
you
do,
go. This is another very interesting secret. You have to love to do what you do.
I look at some of these things like I'm very creative actually, so if you look at a party like a creative outlet or a wedding or something, it's just a canvas and you can do all these fun things with it. And it's a lot of work, but it's fun. That's fun. Jill and I are very different in how we view things and do things. He's like a functionalist. He wants to function and get the job done, and he's inside the process, working inside. I'm more of an overview person. Like I'll look at the whole thing from a higher perspective, and I'll probably okay, how do we engineer this to make this happen? He works inside the process. So we're very different in how we learn and how we probably teach. My son had some learning difficulties when he was little, and I was exasperated trying to understand his problems and trying to help him. And we had special therapists for him, which is working. But Joel would take him and he would teach him how to remember things and all this memorization stuff in a way I could never even do because I found it exhausting. But he would create a story and he would tell him a story about, and he would anchor all these little parts of the story on his body Like there'd be like, little, Chinese ladies up his leg, and then there'd be all these things that would be all over him. And 10 years later, he could recite and he'd remember that test because he could remember it the way my husband taught it to him.
Because he changed all the pictures
Yes.
in his mind. So
Exactly.
he has everything in one
Exactly.
place.
Exactly. So we just have very different learning styles. And I thought he was an absolute genius with the way he was teaching my son. That's my phone. Anyway, my husband was incredible at teaching someone like my son who was out of the box the way he learns. Because my husband's out of the box. And I'm more traditional. Like, to me, it's like, just memorize it. It's so much easier. And it wasn't for them at all. But I had to, I was fascinated with the way they learn. And so I learned from him, and the way he learns, and the way he would connect with my son, who's like him. It was like a whole different world for me, because I've never been exposed internally like that. Because we all walk around in our own worlds. Our realities are very internal. And you think that everybody is like you. Like, that was the biggest, probably, aha moment of my life when I was like 18, realizing that not everybody thinks like I do and perceives the world as I do. And it's shocking when you go through that.
Yeah.
It's like this huge shock. But so
Sure.
the differences are good. They make us grow, and they make us see life through a different lens.
And this is advantage of having family, because you're in the family, you have at least one more person, or in best cases scenario, much more than one person. And you're learning from each other, and you're growing.
Yeah.
So one person, I don't think you will learn something from yourself.
No.
It is something, but not much.
I know. If you were to ask me today, well, now I'd sit back and I go, I wish I had more children.
You see?
Too late for that.
You never say no.
There is a beauty in all that, and it's a lot of work. There's a lot of energy and a lot of effort because you have to do it right. It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, if you're going to do something, do it. My mother always told me, you're going to do it right. Don't do it at all. If you're not going to do it right, do it right. And there's a certain level of attention that you have to give things.
I see Joel was more caring about his son. What about his daughters? How he communicate with them? Because it's very different when mother communicate to daughter and son and father. So could you
Well, we have
teach
two
us-
girls. We have two daughters, and they're very different types, personality types. Joel, I'm laughing at this question because my youngest daughter and he are very much alike. And she's like a female version of him, which is kind of scary. So they have a very open relationship, and they'll talk about anything and everything. Like, I'm like, to the point where I think it's like a little too much. But
For example,
for
for example,
he
what
just
is a little too much?
He's got a very direct way of delivering things, and he'll be very blunt and forthright, and
I think this is how it's supposed to be.
but to me it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just asked your daughter that. So but
tell
I
me
mean, as she
one
gets
example.
older, like talking about sex and talking about, he'll educate her on things, and she's like, there are nothing is barred. Everything is open. Everything's open for discussion.
I think this is
yeah.
only way how it's supposed
But
to
my
be.
older daughter, who's more like me, I guess, in that sense, is going to be she'll kind of recoil from that. Like, she's like, I'm not going to even go there with you. So they're very, they're very different. And I know he has
your
strived.
personality must
Yeah,
go
he has
and
strived to have a
convert.
very close relationship with his children. I think probably one of the best things that he probably did for himself was to take each kid individually on, like a date night or a little trip or something. And he has spent more time with them alone individually than I have, actually. And that, therefore, it's like this one-on-one attention. But then again, remember, he was gone a lot, when they were growing up. And so those are very fond memories for them. But he was a very good father from day one. He could do anything with a baby. I mean, everything.
By the way, maybe I'm wrong, because he's so open with his daughter and he found somebody who can discuss things what he likes. Maybe because he didn't have possibility to speak with you because you are far away, you are busy. So sometimes people do compensation on that level. So this is usually it is. But I'm sure you're a very open person, and I'm sure I can discuss with you everything. And I love it.
We have discussions. I mean, we talk about different things. We talk about what's going on in the world, and we talk about concerns and what the future is going to hold, and it just, our son just he's moving to Tennessee, for instance, and that's a big thing for us because he's going far away and he's going to be living in a different state and but he's got to start his life and he has to do,
Yes.
like he's got to do where he's being pulled and he's got to go down that path himself and explore it and feel like he's got this inclination to do this. He has to follow through on it. So we support him on that.
Wonderful.
And it's like, so there's all these, it's like you raise your kids and then you don't want them to leave, but then they have to go and do their thing and it's hard.
So, and he's going to be a musician, professional, right?
Yeah, he graduated from Berklee College of Music and during the pandemic, so it's a tough time. And Los Angeles has been relatively closed down. I mean, the music scene is largely now moved to Tennessee, to Nashville. And he and his core group of college friends are relocating there to collaborate, to work together. It's a different kind of environment there. They're just very excited about their lives. So he ended up going in as a vocalist. That was what he auditioned with, his voice. And then ended up with a degree in pro music, which was part of that is his voice, but it's also he just expanded into songwriting and expanded, and he's also good at the engineering portions of it too. But at Berklee they highly specialize in different areas. There's a lot of different majors. And so now he wants to work, after being a year, in his studio alone, he wants to be out there and he wants to collaborate. And he wants to be able to go and gig at night and go see music and hear it and play it and write it and just not, in that industry, you can't make it just sitting in your, you're not going to, in your room. You've got to go out there and meet people.
To move around.
And right now, that's a better place to be for him. So I'm hopeful that it'll be everything he thinks and more. And
Congratulations for you, Mom, and for him, of course.
Yeah, and maybe eventually he'll come back to LA or we'll go
Who
there.
knows?
Who knows?
Yes,
I don't know.
Yes, it's better to be spread it all over the world because you never know what's going to happen
you have to
tomorrow.
let your kids do what they have to do. So it's important. And sometimes you don't like what they're going through or what their decisions are. And you still have to stand by and watch it because it's their path.
Yeah.
They have to learn. They have to learn these
this
things.
is another wisdom of my favorite woman, that she supports her kids and you let to be who you are for everybody who's around you.
I think that the key for them is how are you happy? And that is, I tell my older daughter, I tell her, you're never going to, until you have something that's really your own, I don't know if you'll ever be that happy. Like for me, I never liked working for anybody. I never did. I knew I had to at times, but I never liked it. I always wanted my own thing. So not everyone's like that, and that's okay. I don't think there's, for me, where's security? You create your own security. I don't think working for someone else gives you security at all. That's a misnomer, because we used to be in the corporate trade show business, and we used to watch these CEOs of these Fortune 4 and 500 companies. Yeah, they'd be here today, gone tomorrow, the changeovers, mergers would happen, acquisitions would happen, jobs are gone overnight. All I could think was, wow, that's scary.
It is.
Yeah,
and it's coming up. Welcome, corporation world.
I know.
Never, I hope it never will take over completely. So that's why we have to work on ourselves. And very big help for us, mentor of mentors, Cherie Bauer.
That's true. But if you look out there and you see all of these new advertisers on social media and on the internet, these are oftentimes there's some fantastically successful companies that have emerged over the last 3 to 5 years that are doing fantastic. And they started with maybe it's a mother who's starting a line of baby clothing, and now she's in all the major stores and doing an incredible business.
Absolutely.
And there's so many ways. They just take something, they see a need and they fill it, and it's something they are passionate about doing. And before you know it, they have a business and it's growing and it's great. And I want to see that for more and more people.
Yeah, and we need to support each other. It starts from family. You supporting your family and you support others. And this is how we actually live in our family, in the world. This is whole our family. I would love to ask you one interesting question. How you take care of yourself? Do you have any secrets of self-care, any advices?
I'm really bad at this question, but I will tell you.
It's okay.
You're catching me where I've had caregiving of two mothers full-time, like elderly, like full-time care, 24-hour a day, and a business that we've had to pivot. So I would say that it's probably been the worst for me that way the past year and a half, in terms of to take care of myself. It has been, because I've had to do everything. This is what happens in life. My mother got COVID unexpectedly in a hospital right before Thanksgiving of last year. Of course, she lives with us. We all get it. And there goes our entire staff. There goes my mother's 4 caregivers, gone.
Wow.
There goes the housekeepers, because they have a very compromised 16-year-old daughter who has got lupus. And her caregivers got so sick, they were sick for 3 months. And overnight, I inherited everybody's job. And yes, I've gained weight, and yes, I'm not doing what I should be doing. And I keep thinking, okay, this has all got to shift and change. I'm going to completely change this.
It will be.
Yeah. And so we go through times, I think, as women, or just as, in the roles that we play, where life happens, and you got to kind of deal with it.
Yeah, and you have to know how to handle it.
The ebbs and flows. And my daughter had a baby during that time, during the pandemic on top of it. There's just so many things. So I had we had 2 very ill mothers. It was crazy. And then we're trying to figure out our business is live events. Well, you know what happened to that?
Yes.
We're also trying to figure out how do we shift our entire structure to an online business. And that's not that easy. You have to figure it out. And luckily, Joel was able to do some remarkable things because of him being Joel. But it was a very rewarding year, a very challenging year. It was something that I look back and I don't, at one point I loved the beginning of it because it was like a time out from life. I felt like I loved the fact that we just could take that. It was like a reset period, yeah. And I enjoyed it. And I realized it taught so many things. It taught us that, being around our children and being home more and cooking more at home and just doing all these things that we don't do so much in our society anymore is really important, is lacking in our lives. And then after a while, it gets wearing on you, though. This constantly the staying at home and not going anywhere. So you have to there's always that hidden gem as to why it's a good thing. These periods of reset, which we've gone through. And so the self-care, I think, is going to, for me, I've got goals I'm setting that I want to start implementing very shortly. When I say shortly, like next week shortly. So from, new eating program, new this, new that, going back to exercising and making time for myself.
Don't worry, you will make this happen. Because I know if you dedicated yourself to anything, things happen very fast.
Right.
So I don't worry about it.
And I couldn't go shopping for the longest time, but I was in Vegas.
This is so big torture for you.
No.
Like for every woman.
But when I realized in Vegas I was walking like 5 to 7 miles a day, and what was I doing? There was nothing else to do there but shop. You couldn't go out. The pool was too hot to go by the pool. And I don't gamble. I could care less about gambling. And my whatever, Joel was not feeling well, and I'm like, okay, well, there's like shopping everywhere, and I haven't shopped in a long time.
Let's do it.
I had my iWatch on. I'm thinking, look how much I walked today. This is incredible. No wonder I have gained weight during this time.
I didn't walk. I forgot to walk, right?
I haven't walked yet. No shopping.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I have another question for you. People think like every woman desired by men if she is very cheerful and clean. Isn't it only 2 most important things important for men? What do you think? Because you have experience for 30 years together, 36. Is it really only thing like you have to be always smiling and feel good and look pretty? I think something else should be attractive to the husband.
Oh yeah, first of all, I'm not always cheerful, and I'm not, I can be.
So
moody.
you can be in bad situation, bad mood or something, right?
Oh yeah, no, of course.
So how he's handled that? So can you give us?
Sometimes he just stays away from me.
Here you go, great advice. Just stay away from women.
Let me know when you're back.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm not an angel by any means. No, and I have a temper, and I can, be difficult, and sometimes we're like this. Sometimes, he's strong, he's really strong, and then I'm strong because I don't want him stepping on me. So, there's always that thing that goes on, but I think that, I think intellect, I think that being on common ground on larger issues is important. We have the kids in common. We have a grandchild now. We have luckily our political viewpoints and certain things we do agree on. So that is really helpful because I thought if we didn't, that'd be probably not so great. And Joel has become kind of very more civically aware, and his interests and what he's interested in has also shifted. So I think we both spent a lot more time researching and reading things about things we're interested in, and then coming together and talking about it. And that's something that we have been doing. So besides the business, I mean, the business is always there, and you have to kind of make that can kind of, when you're working together and you're married, it's not always wonderful because your whole life can become about the business, and you have to guard against that. It's not always easy, but I think that just taking time, getting away, going out to dinner here and there, just doing little things are important. Small things, eating meals together if you can. We don't spend that much time together sometimes because he is very ensconced in what he's doing. But when we do spend time, it's a good time just to kind of let's connect, let's talk, and at night he'll be on his iPad, I'm on my iPad. It's very romantic.
Very, yes, it is. It is in modern world.
We're like a student again. We're always studying something that interests us.
What is your best advice would be in your own world to be healthy? And how do you care about to be healthy or not?
Of course I care about being healthy because I can see what happens when you're not. And I've had, we've had a lot of, let's say my mother is the oldest of 5 sisters. So I watched what my aunts went through who chose not to go into, as they got older, they made choices that really took them down, like, becoming diabetes and different diseases. And no, I think that it's, I'm interested in anti-aging. I'm interested in longevity. I'm interested in, of course, being healthy and eating right and having a balance and doing all those things. At the same time, you can be absolutely perfectly healthy, right? Do everything right, and you can still, something can happen. So
Yeah.
I think that there's mentally healthy, there's physically healthy, there's emotionally healthy, there's different kinds of healthy, and that you have to kind of you have to kind of do it in all the different layers. So there are times when I'm not an extremist when it comes to being committed to a certain kind of a diet or anything like that, like some people are, because I just don't have a desire to do that. I think that food is a part of life. I like eating. And I.
Me too.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
So I think that's one of the best things. Like food is amazing, and like
It is.
it's one of those things that I don't want to really give up a lot of. It just being out in nature, traveling. Like I think there's mental health. There's so many different kinds of health you're talking about. So it's not just physical. Like there's
Yeah,
like all
mental,
these
I
layers.
think it is most important.
Yeah, and I'm usually, I haven't had a lot of challenge with. I think I'm a pretty happy person. I'm not particularly prone to depression, although I understand what it's like. But I think I'm so busy that I don't have a lot of time to like dwell on that stuff anyway. And I find that like I keep looking forward to like tomorrow. Like I want to do this, I want to do that, and I have all these plans all the time, and I just feel like there's never enough time. So my thing is time. Like what's more important, and I want to stretch out the time as much as possible, and I'm very cognizant of. We've had a lot of death, this last year for our family. I lost a cousin in December, an uncle in February, and my mother-in-law passed in early April 1st, and then my husband lost his half brother April 29th, and then we just lost another first cousin a couple weeks, like 10 days ago, and
sorry.
this is just immediate family. Like this has been a crazy year, so I am hyper aware of life and the sensitivity of it, and and how precious every little moment is really. So I try and just really, just do what I want to do in any given moment and try and get the balance. And I'm not always successful at it. I don't always feel great about it. I just kind of go day by day. I don't dwell too much on it. I just kind of, I have these overall things that I want to do and plan. And it's hard to plan right now, as you know. Like,
Absolutely.
how do we plan a family vacation right now? I don't know. I mean, we've been trying to get to Singapore for, a year and a half now, 2 years. We can't get there still. So it's a weird time we're living in. You have to be adaptable. I think you have to really adapt during this era and time. Adaptability is key.
Yeah, adapt it. Yeah, and if you have some baggages or base to be adaptive, like you have enough room, to stretch yourself, then you will be more adaptive. I agree on that. And you are perfect because you've been always whole your life
Yeah, we just have
adaptive
to.
to
You
difficulties.
have to, and that's survival of the fittest, really. If you can't pivot, if you can't adapt, then you're going to be left. You're not going to be able to function properly here anymore. And this is like you have to be fluid, keep fluid, not be rigid. You have to kind of flow with the times, and understand that nothing is forever, and this is temporary.
Absolutely.
And it's just and then what are the lessons again at the end of the day? What's the lesson that we're learning from all of this? Because there's a lesson for us individually and everything, and that's what we need to walk away with, understanding what that lesson is. So we don't have to repeat it, and we can
So
learn from it.
everybody is different.
Everyone's different.
So as you are a spiritual person, you are well aware of light part of that world and the dark part of the world, and you have intuition and everything. So do you believe if we're working with light, so demons comes to our way as well, certain ways. So magic people do black magic and all of that stuff. Do you experienced anything with black magic? Or why I'm asking that question, I will tell you, because I've been through that as well. And mostly people who are happy in marriage, somebody cannot live happily because they want to destroy that marriage or relationships or money or success, whatever. And my question is to you, did you experience anything like that toward your family, some attack energetically, or some people with bad vibes come to your life? And how did you handle that? Because I think in LA, it's going on a lot.
It is going on. There's more witchcraft in Los Angeles
Wow.
than in anywhere else in the United States. It's rife with witchcraft. And these things are real. These attacks are real. And there's a lot of people who have ill will towards other people for jealousies, for any number of reasons, where they want to, they think that they want to steal your husband, or they want to, they feel like you shouldn't have this child in your life, and they should be somewhere else. And I've gone through so many crazy things that I don't think most people would even believe it. And for me, the unseen world is very real, and it's very visceral, and I have a strong sense of it, let's say. And it got so bad at times for me that I actually ended up going to Amsterdam to learn from a mentor to how to handle these things myself, because I felt like the attacks were like coming one after the other, after the other, after the other. Like I remember like 2008, 2013, those were very terrible years for me, and I was just at my wit's end trying to like overcome a lot of these things. And it wasn't until I kind of really grounded myself and understood what was happening and how to raise my vibrational energy and how to deal with these demonic type of attacks and these entities, these lower level entities, that until I could conquer them, until I could, understand what I was dealing with, who the enemy was. Like, first of all, it's an unseen enemy, right? And you don't understand what's going on. And even it extends sometimes to your children and to those closest to you. That's the scary part.
Yeah.
There was an instance where I knew that there was someone who was coming into my home one time, and I thought, I didn't really have a choice, but wasn't happy about it. And I had a cat that I loved this cat. Her name was Beauty. She's a beautiful black long-haired cat. And I just had this, I'm not even a cat person, but I love this particular animal of ours. And we were we had this relationship, I can't explain it. And that night, there were a series of 3 terrible things that happened following less than 24 hours. And I knew it was, I knew there was going to be something that happened from this encounter. I was right. And there were not only one, but there were 3 things. And one was that this cat, it was an indoor cat, was, I woke that morning in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning to this screech. And I just bolted out of bed and I ran downstairs. And this cat who never goes outside had gotten outside. And I ran towards her scream, and I saw like a mountain lion just jump the fence. And she was laying there dead. And I was just like, my very first thought was, oh, God. I was just devastated. And I could think, God damn it, this is what happens. Like, you're talking about witchcraft and a witch taking out another woman's cat. It was classic. It was like classic. And that same day, in the afternoon, my older daughter was driving her sister's car down Topanga Canyon, and she had, out of nowhere, she had this crazy spin out, and her car spun 3 times. She doesn't even know what caused the spin out, and she ended up hitting the embankment. And my other daughter, who was, I forgot where she was either in Utah or Houston at a ballet program then, and she's rarely ever had any kind of injury. But she had a terrible fall. It's so bad that they actually had to take her to the hospital. So the cat was killed. My daughter was in the car accident, and my other daughter got injured. And I know that this is black magic. This was black magic. This is not, I know.
An all women's line.
Yeah, I knew that. I mean, so this is just sort of like, these are the things that would go on consistently sometimes, and I got so frustrated with it. Or you can, people come into your home, into your environment, and they have evil intent, and they just can do a lot of damage. So it's been a problem in the past, and I finally feel like I've conquered it. I finally feel like I can. First of all, I'm a pretty strong warrior. Like, I feel like I have that in me. Like, I just feel that very powerful. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of the dark side. I'm not afraid of it at all. I feel like I've been trained how to deal with it out of necessity. And I figured it out. I did what I had to do to go and figure it out. And not that it doesn't still happen, of course, but a person can put a curse on anybody, and they can put a hex or a curse, and you're all of a sudden you're like, why am I ill, or why is my business like this, and why is this happening? Nobody knows these things, the average person, but it happens nonetheless.
Yeah, you exactly was doing the purpose of woman, and you're a perfect example of that. The purpose of woman is to manage the energy of mana in order to prevent all troubles from those around her. And this is exactly what you're doing, and you're doing great.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the knowledge that I have and for the training that I have, and it's come in very handy. And the idea is to keep your house really clean, and to keep your energy field really clean, and then where nothing can stick to you. Like if you ascend high enough, nothing can attach to you there. All these lower level things cannot attach to you. And I understand how to remove witchcraft. I understand how to remove these hexes and remove these things. And it is, it definitely takes. It's not easy work necessarily, but it can be done, and that's the best thing. That's what's great about it. It can be done, and you can fix it. And you
Absolutely, but most importantly, like you said, keep your vibration high and clean, pure inside. You will not be attached to anything. And I'm so happy about this conversation. I learned a lot, and I would love to maybe ask you a couple short questions, if I may. For example, what do you think, is bragging is good for family, or how it affects family? Because very often husband bragging about his wife, and wife bragging about I have like this husband, he does for me that, So how do you think it's working out?
I don't know. I think sometimes it can be very fake.
Usually it is fake.
I found
sign of fakeness.
Like, those are the people who are getting, like, one day they're all happy and then they're getting divorced. I mean, I see that. I've seen that over the years. I think that you give credit where credit is due. And I'm probably not one to overly compliment, like Joel would tell you that. But like my husband is one of these people who, I go, you get compliments from so many other people, like that's all you get. You have more compliments and more people giving you accolades than any other human being I know, and you want more from me. But I'm like very kind of down. I'm more down to earth that way, and I probably because I think my grandmother always told me, like even myself when I was a little girl growing up, she didn't tend to compliment, and I lived with her, and it was like, well, I don't want your head to get, I don't want you to get a big head, and so I guess I wasn't taught to do that too much, so I don't do it naturally that much.
Yeah. And
But
he care only about what you're saying. He doesn't care about all of that. He has it.
yeah,
But
And I
one
do
word
it.
from you
Yeah.
cost hundred of
yeah,
those.
and I do, and I feel it's merited, but I don't want to just say it because he wants me to say it.
I know what you mean.
Because then it's not authentic, and it's just I'm doing it just to say something so he's pleased with it, and it's not coming from the right place. It's because it's not genuine. But I do it when I feel it's merited, and I will say
But it's
something.
a great point, Joe.
Yeah.
If she doesn't feel it, means she will not fake it. So she's pure love. I like that. I like that. For example, how your husband, does he ask how you feeling, honey, or how's your mood? Does he actually care about that?
He'll say, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm okay.
Are
Okay.
you upset that he doesn't?
He's-
Or
you
you
know-
kind of used to it?
I mean, Joel is he's in Joel world, and so there are things that go on, and I probably insulate him from a lot of things. I probably shouldn't too, because I feel like, I'll handle it. He doesn't have to worry about this.
You help him so much.
But it could be like anything from the fire department wrote us up for our trees and we have to cut them, and I'll just handle it. And then he'll go, "Why are these people here?" And I go, "Oh, we've got an issue," or we're going through an audit right now of the IRS. Which I hate, but I'll deal with it. And so he gets, he does get away with not doing or not delving into a lot of
He
things.
doesn't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he understands that. What kind of you are making for him space to create his magic.
Yeah, exactly. So now I need to make my own space to create my magic a little bit.
Got it, right?
Yeah, because there could be only so much of that at a given time, right? Yeah.
And how do you feel when you're alone? Is it necessary for you?
Love being alone.
You love it.
Oh my God. I'm never alone. Like, I love being alone.
Okay, check.
Yeah.
Check.
I fantasize about just sometimes I go to a hotel by myself somewhere and just, I think being alone is really important.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I love that too.
Yeah.
And I like how your husband called your wife for life and how you would call him, because I was trying to figure it out what you would say. I came up hobby not sabi,
What'd you say?
Hobby not sabi.
Oh,
Something like that.
gosh, I don't know. I mean, I'll go back to you taking your vows, and I remember the state of mind I was in when I did that and getting married, and that was already 30 years ago, which is like a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So it goes by fast. If you stick with one person long enough, you see a lot of different stages and
Yeah.
phases and development, and it's interesting because you just keep shifting around each other all the time, and it's not bad. That's a good thing. It's not labeled good or bad. It's just an experience of growth and how we all change over time, And we might not all grow together necessarily or the same way, but it's all okay. Because the way he's growing, the way I'm growing, individually, like you have to keep growing individually. I think that's what I'm saying. That's important.
Yeah.
That's really
sure.
important.
And what you will say, you have opportunity right now to say to your husband something.
Oh, my husband.
What would you like to say? What you would never say, for example, alone.
I'm sorry for everything that I never apologized for.
That's all?
No. Let's see. I love him very much. I love you. And I would thank you for allowing me to have the kind of life we've had together, and to be the fact that we've been able to, he let me stay home with the kids. I was able to raise them during their early time. And I am appreciative of all of those things. And I know you work really, really hard. And all the effort and just life energy that you've put out over the years to give us a better life, I appreciate very much. And I love you.
Wonderful. This is magical note. I love the mood. I love the energy of this conversation. And I'm so happy that I met you long
I
time
know,
ago.
it's been a long time.
And I'm so happy that I still know you. I'm still around your people who you talk to. And I wish you to continue to be a wife for life, for rest of your life. And I wish you all love and happiness in your family.
Oh, thank you. I have to say, thank you very much.
That's all.
Yay.